Okay, today we're going to work on lesson 4.6, Introduction to Coordinate System. Our objectives are we want to be able to use ordered pairs to plot and identify points on a coordinate grid. We want to be able to graph points on the coordinate plane to solve real-world mathematical problems. So we'll start with our warm-up here. If you remember, when we do a fraction of a whole number, we can just put the whole number over 1 and then just put multiplication symbol in place of multiply straight across, and I get 8 over 2. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. And you can try the next one on your own on paper. So half of 20. And then there's some level 2 problems you can try as well. So 1/4 of 12, and then 1/4 of 20. We're going to work on the level 3 one here. So same thing. I put the whole number over 1, multiply, and I get 10/3. And I know that 3 can go into 10 3 times, and 3 times 3 is 9, so I have 1/3 left over. So that would be 3 1/3. So on those, you just write your remainder as a fraction when you divide. Now, there'll be lots of vocabulary today that we're going to look at. So the axis of a coordinate grid, either of the two number lines that intersect form a coordinate grid. So these are the axes. So this is the x-axis, and then this is the y-axis. Okay, so we call those the axis of the coordinate grid. A coordinate is one of the two order numbers in an ordered pair. So you can see the coordinates here. So 2 would be a coordinate, and 3 would be one as well. The coordinate grid is just a rectangular grid here. So you see something similar to this on Evaluate for our problem. That is called your coordinate grid. And their ordered pairs are naming the points that are plotted there. And then to intersect simply means to meet or cross. If you have intersecting segments, okay, that means usually there's a dot or something at the end to show that this is just a small section of line. Or you might see intersecting lines where there's arrows telling you the lines would continue on if you were to keep drawing them. And then our ordered pairs, for example, we have 5, 3 here. So when we talk about ordered pairs, our first number in the ordered pair is our x, our second one is our y. So our x tells us how many to go over, and the y coordinate tells you how many to go up or down on the grid. In this case, we're only working with positives, so we'll be going over and up today. Now, the origin is simply the beginning. So the beginning of the grid, no matter if there's 4 quadrants or just one of these, the origin is always going to be 0, 0. That's your starting point. The origin is the beginning. And then the word perpendicular, you've probably heard before. Perpendicular just means two lines that intersect to make a right angle, okay? And so you can see perpendicular planes there. It looks like maybe cardboard or pieces of paper. And then down below they have perpendicular rays. And then to plot is simply when we draw on a number line, coordinate grid, or graph. So points can be plotted from data. So x-axis, I already showed you that, and then the x-coordinate. So here would be your x-axis, and this would be our x-coordinate in each of these ordered pairs. So always the first number, and then just the opposite, the y-axis, and the second number in the ordered pair is always going to be your y-coordinate. Okay, now at this point, go ahead and pause and turn to Math Journal page 127. Find the city of Tralee on the map. Be prepared to explain how you found that. So again, pause, find that, see if you can find that on the map. Okay, so after you've paused and you found Tralee, you can see in your list, hopefully you found it up here, and you found out it says B12. Kind of funny looking thing there, right? Now, this map shows the island of Ireland. So how do we locate Tralee? Well, I found Tralee on the list up here, which could be very helpful, right? And I see B2, and down here, go to the bottom, and I see the letter B, and I see the number 2 over here. So I know if I follow up, oh, there it is, Tralee, B2. So those coordinates help us, right? So this would be the x-coordinate, the B, and the y would be B2 because we're going up. So I found Tralee by looking at the coordinates they gave us of B2. So it says you look for B and then go up 2 places and you would see it within that square. Now, using the letter number pairs, what is the letter number pairs for Westport and Wicklow? So now you want to try to find the coordinates for Westport and Wicklow. So go ahead and pause your video and find those on the map. And after doing some research, you should have been able to look through there and find Westport is in the B5 coordinate. So you can see B and you follow it down all the way to 5, and it's in that square. And then Wicklow, you should have been able to find it in F4. So you'd have looked at the top or the bottom and the F's and found 4. So F4 is where you'd find Wicklow. So in the math message, you use letter number pairs to locate regions on a map. Today, you'll learn how to use ordered number pairs to locate specific points on a grid. All right, so we have B here, which is 3, C is 6, and A is 8. How could you describe the location of points A, B, and C on the number line? So just kind of like we said, we could say that point B is 3, C is 6, and A is 8. Right? We can also say that C is 3 ahead of B. We could say that A is 2 ahead of C. We could say that A is 5 ahead of B. So there's lots of different things we could say there to describe the locations. But very simply, we could locate 2. Now let's locate 2.5 on here. So I know, and we want to label them. So we're going to say D will be 2.5. So when I look between 2 and 3, halfway mark would be D. And then let's see, we're going to say E for 4. So I see the number 4 and I put an E. And then for 7.5, I'm going to use an F. And I know 7.5 or 7.5 is halfway between 7 and 8. And I would put F. So very simply, we're just plotting points, right? We use that word plot there. Now, is there a point on the number line for any number you can name? Why or why not? When I look at it, I could plot it anywhere on here, and I think I could come up with a number. I could break it down into decimals and fractions. So, for example, maybe I break this down into between 1 and 2 into 4, so I could say 1 and 1/4. Right? If you start getting into really, really small pieces, I'm like hundredths and thousands, it might be a little bit trickier to do with a small number line. But let's look at D. It's way up here, but if I draw a line straight down, I would say it's barely more than 4, but I would pretty much describe it as 4, or just a little bit more. All right. There is a way to precisely locate any point in a two-dimensional space, even a point that is not on the number line, by drawing two number lines that are perpendicular, or right angles, to each other to form a grid. This is called a coordinate grid. So I could do that on here. Could draw the lines here and see where my lines intersect, and it looks like it intersects right about B4 if I drew it straight. Now, on page 128 in your journal, make sure you're there at this point if you're not already. Okay, unlike the map you used in the math message, the number lines are labeled are on the tick marks, not the space between the marks. So let's go ahead and look at some of these other parts here. The number of lines cross or intersect at the 0 point. Remember, we called that the origin. This point is called the origin of the grid. The number lines are called the axis. So you can see here in our vocabulary examples, they gave 4 quadrants or 4 squares. We're only focused on the first quadrant right now. So the horizontal number is called the x-axis, and the vertical number line is called the y-axis. Now, locations of points on a coordinate grid are described by pairs of numbers written inside parentheses, such as 3, 4. So I could go over. I always go over and then up. So I see my first one is x. So I'll go over to the 3, and then I have my y. It tells me to go up 4. So I go over 3, up 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I would plot my point there. Okay. The next one I see here is 0, 6. So if it's a 0 for the x, I'm not going over at all. I'm staying right where I'm at, and I'm going up 6 spots. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the numbers inside the parentheses are called the coordinates, right? So marking a point on the coordinate grid is called plotting the point. Now, I don't want to do something like this and draw lines and all those things. You want to make sure you're not doing that because it will be confusing on the data. And sometimes you want to connect those points to make a graph. So the first coordinate is called the x-coordinate because it gives the distance traveled from the origin horizontally, or the direction of the x-axis. In our case, which is the first quadrant, the first number you're always moving to the right. Okay. The second coordinate is called the y-coordinate, and you're moving vertically. In our case, for our graphs, you're only going to be moving up. Okay. So think of the directions as over and up. All right. So look at the directions here. It says start at 0, move over to the right to locate the 3 on the x-axis, then go up 4. Draw a dot and label it. So take a moment, pause your video, mark that, and then come back. Okay, so after you've done that, you should start at 0, and you want to move over 3 places to the right, and then you want to go up 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and plot your point. And it says to draw a dot and label it S. So make sure you've done that. Make sure yours matches mine. Okay, now it says using the same grid, plot coordinates 4, 3, and label it T. So again, pause the video and do that. So over 4, up 3. Oops. Don't want to have that long line on there. So over 4, up 3, label it T. Okay, so you can see the difference there, right? It's really important that you make sure that you're reading it correctly and you're plotting your X, you're going over and then up. Because you can see how we flip-flop the numbers there and we got different points. Okay, are the points plotted the same location? Well, we can see they're obviously not, right? So we need to make sure that we're following that. Okay, now plot the following points on the grid in problem 1. So go over 5, up 9, and put a point, make it M. Go over 9, up 5, put an N, and then at your origin, put a U. After you've done that, you should get what looks just like this. Okay, so we have the origin, you have your M and your N. So if you follow the directions closely and went over and then up based on those order pairs, you have it. Now, go ahead and pause the video, and you're going to complete problems 2 and 3 on 128. And you're just going to write in the ordered pairs for the grid that they give you there. And you want to use a straight edge, and you want to connect points A, B, and C in order. And here's a key thing, in order. So I'm going to connect A to B, and then B to C. Okay, so pause the video, take care of that. And you see you should come up with 10 over 10 up 13, over 5 up 9, over 5 over up 13, and then the origin stays at 0, 0. So coordinate systems have many real-world applications. For example, many computer graphic programs use a coordinate system to tell a computer exactly what should appear at each point of the screen to create a desired image. And if I remember correctly, in Project Lead the Way, a lot of you did some things with order pairs, coordinate planes programming, I believe. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, and you're going to complete problems 4 through 6 on page 128. All right, so you should have A, B, C already on your thing there, and then you're going to go through and plot the other points. Okay, so let me show you a couple of them. I'm not going to do them all for you because I want you to figure out what the mystery image is there. But let's look at D, and I like to check these off as I do them. So D, I go over 6, up 10. So I go until I match the 10, and I see D there. Okay, and then I'll do E with you, and then I'll stop. Okay, so over 9, up 10. Should be the same area. And then you're going to plot each of the rest of those points. Now, use a straight edge so you get the right image. Connect the points in alphabetical order. If you do not do that and start at point C, then you will get it wrong. You will never figure out what the mystery image is. So make sure you start in alphabetical order, but starting with point C and start connecting the images, okay? And then tell me what you think it is. Oftentimes when people can't figure out the image, it's because they did not connect them in alphabetical order. All right? So that we're not going to worry about. And we're not going to worry about over and up squares. So that is the conclusion to today's lesson. And then you can always ask your teacher if you have questions and things like that. But make sure you remember that the first number in the order pair is always over. The second number is always going up until you start dealing with negative order pairs, and we are not going to do that in fifth grade. All right.